the immunological systems of 𝔕𝔞𝔩𝔞𝔵𝔦�. For simplicity's sake, this video will only be covering the major differences between the human and 𝔕𝔞𝔩 immune system, as the immune system is a very large and complicated subject, and would take too long to fully explain. The first major difference is how cells of the body tend to react to an invader. Human cells will first call upon the macrophages, which will devour and digest the intruder. But in a 𝔕𝔞𝔩𝔞𝔥, the body cells will call upon the immune system and begin digesting the invaders if they get too close to the body's cells. If the cell is unable to digest the invader, it will progressively become more acidic and eventually destroy itself, releasing a mixture of signal enzymes upon death to notify the body's other cells and immune system about the invader and its resistance to digestion, allowing the immune system to react appropriately. Upon receiving this information, the body cells will rapidly pass the same signal enzymes to one another and release it into the blood as to warn the entire body that digesting this specific invader is not effective. This trait of the 𝔕𝔞𝔩 immune system evolved specifically to deal with more durable invaders, as the environment of the 𝔕𝔞𝔩 homeworld was incredibly harsh. Most life on the planet living in caves or in water before the 𝔕𝔞𝔩 species became civilized and altered the environment significantly. Due to the harsh conditions before the alterations, most diseases and life in general evolved to be more durable physically, an example being common bacteria. Due to the sheer heat of the surface, most species of bacteria evolved a hibernation system similar to an Earth tardigrade, or known as a water bear, dehydrating their bodies greatly and compacting themselves, awaiting water for survival. Another major difference between human and 𝔕𝔞𝔩 immune systems being the existence of several specialist cells. These cells carry out specific functions if the invader is resistant to standard methods of attack or carry out other functions entirely. The first type of specialist cell being trapper cells. These cells will form short tube-shaped net structures along the inside of the arteries and veins, laying across the internal walls and waiting for an invader to pass through. When a parasite or large-scale invader passes through the lined area, the trapper cells will detach from the walls of the arterial system and wrap the tube-shaped net around the invader, restraining it and making it easier for the immune system to kill the invader. Once the invader is grabbed, the trapper cells will call upon another type of specialist cell and the immune system to assist in destroying the invader. Once the invader is destroyed, the net will break down and the trapper cells will die, a new net regrowing in its place. The second type of specialist cell being Harpoon cells. These cells are worm-like in shape and move in a manner similar to a sea snake, the front end having a single hard spike with several small hollow barbs lining it, the spike often being composed of either iron or calcium. These cells have adapted specifically to puncture into the bodies of small parasites or into invaders the immune system is unable to kill normally, and will release a dissolving enzyme via the holes in its barbs to destroy the invader internally. These cells are often called upon by the trapper cells to assist in destroying trapped invaders, but will otherwise lay dormant along the walls of the arterial system, often near the trapper cells, as to respond quickly. But, interestingly, these cells did not originally evolve as part of the host immune system, but at some point were an entirely separate organism, presumably a parasite, that somehow managed to form a symbiotic relationship with an early ancestor of the 𝔕𝔞𝔩 species. The third type of specialist cell being known as a guard cell. These immune cells will typically stay in one particular region of the body and are only found in the most vital of organs, such as the heart, the lungs, the spinal cord, and the brain, staying rooted in place with 8 small limbs that can be used to move, albeit very slowly. These cells will typically be in a dormant state unless awoken by the presence of an invader. Instead of attacking threats by digesting, trapping, or impaling them, these cells will release a long, mobile tentacle that ends with a simple hand-like structure to catch their target, constrict it, crushing it. If the guard cell is unable to physically crush the target, it will call for the immune system to assist it. And the fourth type of specialist cell, like the others, is not directly hostile to invaders and is simply known as an observer cell. These cells do nothing but patrol its bloodstream and organs, searching for potential threats, while being followed by a small group of immune cells. When a potential threat is identified, the observer cell will secrete an enzyme to get the immune system ready for action. The observer cell then uses a series of highly specialized sensory organelles and tentacles to observe, feel, see, and smell the target. The tentacles capable of being detached if the subject of investigation attacks, infects, or grabs the limb. If the subject is identified as a foreign object, something dead or something generally not supposed to be where it is, such as a stuck immune cell, the observer cell will call upon the body's natural processes to remove it. If the subject is hostile, the observer cell will call upon the immune system for backup and feed them information about the invader by releasing information via signal enzymes. In the event that an observer cell becomes infected or compromised by an invader, it will undergo apoptosis, basically cellular suicide, and destroy itself. If this reaction is somehow blocked by the invader, it will forcefully rip itself apart by using its tentacles to prevent the infection spreading and release signal enzymes. These 4 specialist cells are all produced within the bone marrow, much like our own immune cells, and will migrate to where they are needed by the bloodstream. Many more specialist cells exist within the 𝔖𝔞𝔩 species that don't exist within our own, but many of these are either variations of the aforementioned or carry out oddly specific roles in the body that are too small to be really worth mentioning in this video. If you want to learn more about the 𝔖𝔞𝔩 species and their anatomy, go to the link in the description below where you can watch other videos on my website to generally learn more about them.